Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jacqueline Atkins, and in this video I'm going to chat about the 5 initiations of the Mary, or more specifically, remember the 5 initiations of the Mary, because they're already encoded within you and you are remembering them. So, a couple of disclaimers before I begin. One, I am house sitting a kitten who is in a really playful mood at the moment. So you might hear some background noises, but they are joy and fun and adventurous. So some of those energies will be coming into this video. And secondly, as part of this video, I am promoting an online journey that I'm holding in September called Remember the 5 Initiations of the Mary. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that journey and what it involves. However, I'm also going to be giving a lot of background information and sharing some wisdom, and so you will still benefit from it. So it is worth hanging around just to hear a little bit about my discussion about the Rose Line, about the Mary, and about these 5 initiations as they've come to me. These aren't like the only initiations of the Mary. We receive these downloads and we interpret them through our lens, and I'm sharing them with you through my lens and through my understanding. And I mean, this is the beautiful thing about this work, is that we all see it through our own lens. We all have our own interpretation, because basically at the end of the day, everything is codes, and then we interpret those codes. And then we find people who are in resonance with our interpretation. And then there are other people who there is just no resonance. But that's perfect. That's how it's meant to be. So anything I explain to you, just know it's my interpretation. And I'm using the very limited English language to explain what really are codes. And so take it if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, great, because you'll find your way. So I'm going to begin actually with the title of this particular journey. I have held several, this is my 5th Remember journey, but it's the 4th topic that I've done. And always, when I start these journeys with remember, it's because you have got the memory in you. You are remembering. I mean, this is the way we're living life right now, isn't it? It's, even with our fascination and our connection with Lemuria or Atlantis or ancient Egypt or any other ancient cultures, it's because we are remembering. And also with the shift in consciousness, it's enabling more access to that memory. And so this is why I call them a remember journey, because the codes of the Mary, the initiations of the Mary are within you. You have walked that path many times. So let me start with the Rose Line. Now, I've talked about the Rose Line a lot because I'm a channel of the Rose Line. That's one of the names that I call myself. And I have been playing with the energy of the Rose Line for about 25 years. And how I interpret and understand the Rose Line is that the Rose Line is a group of beings, many beings. So many people associate the Rose Line with Mary Magdalene. And of course, she is a part of the Rose Line. And she may even come in at the end of this for a channeling, since in my last video it got a bit cold where I was standing outside in Melbourne to bring her through. So I just remembered that. So she may come in at the end of this video. So many people associate the Rose Line with her because Mary Magdalene is such a strong rose goddess energy. And I'll move into that in a little bit when I talk about this particular online journey. But Mother Mary is also very much associated with the Rose Line and has always been portrayed with roses. So there's something within that essence, or within their essence, within that Mary essence, that's connected to the roses and the Rose Line. But in my work, I have now channeled 44 beings who have come through as being part of the rose line. And one way that I've interpreted their energy is that all of them, whether the particular incarnation that's come through to me, whether that incarnation has been in female form or in male form, they all have held that internal state of sacred union. They have that beautiful harmony within them. And that harmony, I now say, is the fifth dimensional harmony, the fifth dimensional or the new earth frequency. And that's what we are moving in and out of at this time as we join together, as we find that internal harmony of our masculine and our feminine, or our yin and yang, if you'd prefer to use that term. This is what we are rediscovering, remembering. And all of the beings of the rose line that I've channeled, this is something that they all held. And the way I understand it is in their incarnations, she's getting a bit wild, in their incarnations, they have, it's like they've planted seeds. They've left codes in the earth that hold this beautiful sacred union energy, frequency. And it's like those codes are being activated now. And that's why these people or these beings and their incarnations are coming back into our consciousness so strongly. And it's amazing how I'll just see references to different people who I have channeled as part of the rose line, or beings, they're no longer alive. And then I just suddenly start to notice their names everywhere. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like that is awakening. That energy, that frequency is awakening. Now, I haven't talked a lot about those rose line beings here on YouTube. I do that in my membership. However, I have talked a lot about the 11 main oracles. And about a year ago, I did videos, and each day I did a channeling from a different oracle of the rose line. In fact, it was November because I did 11 days between the 1st and the 11th of November. So those are here. I've got a playlist if you want to go back and listen to those videos. This is my interpretation of the rose line. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what you think the rose line is. But what's beautiful is people are being activated by it. People are hearing about the rose line. And they're like, there's something oh my gosh, chills. It's like they know that it means something to them. Those codes are being activated in them. And as I say, it doesn't matter what you think it is. I could try and give an explanation of, well, it's a love energy and it's this and that. But actually, I don't really know. All I know is that it's a part of my lineage. And the work I'm here to do is to activate the codes of this lineage. And in doing so, I am meeting all of these amazing people who are feeling the same. And everyone has their own expression for that. And that's what's really exciting. That is what's so exciting. And we are each bringing in our flavor. Now, one way I often see this visually, and when I'm guiding people through, I record these personal activations for some people in one of the tiers of my membership each month. And I take them through a visualization. And in that visualization, they're on a rose and they're in the center of the rose, and all the rose petals are spiraling out from them. And in the visualization, I always see that each of those petals is a different aspect of a rose line being. So one holds the frequency and the codes of Joan of Arc. One holds the frequency and the codes of Rumi. One holds the frequency and codes of Mary Magdalene, and so on. And they each hold a different aspect, and those aspects are all in us. And so when one of them comes through and channels a message, they are reflecting that aspect that is in us. Now, I see that as the petals. Now, what has been shown to me recently is the entire rose is the Mary frequency. And my understanding, that's very mental, isn't it? But this is the way I explain it to myself, is that the Mary is the galactic frequency of the rose line. So I've always associated the rose line with Venus. And when I hold the Priestess training courses for the Rose line, we go to the Temple of the Rose on Venus. Like that, it's very much Venus in her 5th, 6th, 7th dimensional frequency. And so that's where we hold the Priestess initiation trainings. And so I've always associated Venus with the Rose line. But what I was shown earlier this year is that I was shown the pattern, and I talked about this a couple of videos ago, of the Rose of Venus, the beautiful dance in the sky that happens between Venus, the Sun, and the Earth every 13 years, making the 5-petaled rose or the 5-pointed star, the sacred geometry, and that is a portal. Venus creates that portal, and she has done for a very long time. But what that is doing, because of our shifting consciousness, is that has now opened up a portal to enable or to allow in the galactic energies, which I'm calling the Mary. It's almost like all of those souls who've incarnated as beings of the Rose line, their soul connection at the galactic level, we could go further, but we'll just go at the galactic level, comes from the Mary. And the Mary, when I channel them, are a collection of galactic beings associated with different star systems. I have the strongest resonance with the Andromeda star system. That's my, I guess if I was going to say what feels like my soul home at the moment, that's it. And I know that the Mary energy comes very strongly from Andromeda. However, there are other beings within the Mary who are from other star systems. And so even though I've sort of started to talk more about the Mary, this is why. It's because this portal has opened up, and then this higher frequency of the Rose line is still coming through. Now, this doesn't mean that the Rose line are not relevant at all. And that's still the majority of my work is channeling the Rose line, because the Rose line, I feel like the Rose line are our day-to-day guides. They're the ones, as I said, the aspect of them reflects in us, in our day-to-day lives, in our personal evolution. So we're still learning and growing within that. However, we are at such a consciousness now that this higher frequency, higher vibrating frequency of the Mary is now coming through to us. And you'll probably notice that more and more people are now becoming aware of their galactic ancestry. And so this is going hand in hand with that. So that's just a little bit of a background of the way I see the Rose line, the way I channel it, just what they mean to me personally, and then how this has now evolved for me into the Mary. Both, I mean, one and the same really, just bringing through different frequencies. So to go to the initiations. This has come through in the last couple of months for me, these 5 initiations. And they're not the only initiations, but for the purpose of what I am sharing at this time, I've been given 5. And the 5 are associated with the 5 petals of the Rose of Venus, the 5 petals created with that beautiful pattern of Venus in the sky. And so each petal, if you like, is a different initiation. So I'm going to go through, I sent out a newsletter yesterday, so you might have received this if you're on my list. The Rose Oracle is the name of my newsletter. And I sent it out just with a bit more detail about this course. And I described the 5 initiations. So I'm just going to share them with you now, because you can go to my invitation page, the link's below. I haven't got as much detail in that as what I wrote in my newsletter yesterday. So I'm going to share this with you if you're wondering what the 5 initiations are. But just to let you know, just basically, I've been guided to hold this over 5 weeks, the five Mondays of September, Monday, of course, being the moon day. But also, they're really powerful, those days in September. So we begin on the 1st of September. And here in Australia, that's actually the first day of spring. and which is interesting because Mary's energy is often associated with spring, because in the Northern Hemisphere, you will have a lot of celebrations of Mary in May, which is the month where spring is really flourishing. But here in Australia, it's the 1st of September. So that's the first week. The second week is the 8th of September. And then on that day, it's celebrated as the birth of Mary, of Mother Mary, on the 8th of September. But also on that day, we have the full moon and an eclipse. So that's going on. That's a full lunar eclipse on that day. I think I got that right. The full moon, yes, on that day, and that's in Pisces. So it's either on the 8th or the 9th, depending where in the world you are. But basically, on the 8th, we're going to be in the energy of that. And then the following week, on the 15th, is like mid-eclipse season. And then the following week, on the 22nd, is going to be the next eclipse, which is the new moon. And that's the second new moon in Virgo is happening then at 29 degrees Virgo. And that's going to be a partial solar eclipse. So I'm recording this actually just a couple of hours before the first new moon in Virgo at 0 degrees. So this is a powerful month. Like, we're entering the month of the Virgin. And interesting when I read the initiations out to you, because it comes in the beginning of the month. And then we're going to move into Libra. We're going to have the equinox also on the 22nd of September. And we're going to go into Libra season, which is the season of harmony. That is, in many ways, the season of the harmony of masculine and feminine. So that'll be the 22nd and 23rd. We've got the eclipse, then we've got the equinox the next day. And then the following weekend, the 29th, will be the final initiation, and no big events as far as I know, astrologically or any otherwise. That's going to be Integration Day. But they're the 5 Mondays that we're holding this. I just feel like energetically we're going to be so supported by what's happening up there in the heavens, as well as the journeying we're going through. So let me give you a little summary of these. I'm going to be reading them. So the first initiation on the 1st of September. So I've called this Mary of the Sea. We journey with the Stella Maris, the star of the sea, into the primordial waters where it all began. These waters were in the sac that held you in your mother's womb. The codes in these waters move through into your body of water and hold the first petal of the Mary codes to be activated. So that's what we'll be doing in the first week. I will be guiding you on a journey into the waters. It will be in some location. I don't know where. I'll receive that on the day. So I will be taking you on a journey to a location, obviously in your imagination. And then we will have some of the Roseline beings coming as part of the initiation. I have a bit of an idea who, but you have to wait till the day to find out. And you'll be taken through this first initiation of the Mary to do with the waters. And of course, I'm sure you're aware that mer is the sea in French. And in fact, all Spanish, Italian, they all have that same root, as well as la mer being the mother. So that frequency is very strong in the Mary. And this first initiation is almost like when the waters covered the earth, those sacred waters, and that was the birthplace of all creation. So that's what we're going to be going into. That's when the Mary codes first came to the earth. So the second initiation on the 8th is the Virgin Mary. We journey with the White Goddess, whose codes are held in the purity of the sacred springs of earth. These codes were transmitted to you at the time you had your spiritual awakening, and hold the second petal of the Mary codes to be activated. So again, I'll take you to a specific spring, a specific location, to guide you through that initiation of the second petal, the purity, the White Goddess. Now, to go through these initiations, you have to have had I did put it in quotes, the spiritual awakening, because it's not a term I like, but it's a term people understand. So it's the point where you suddenly went, oh my God, there's more to this life than what this 3D world that I live in. And we need to go through that, and we need to have some level of self-awareness and awakening before we can go into initiation 3. And initiation 3 is the Black Madonna. And this is what I wrote about in my newsletter yesterday, because I've had a very intimate time with the Black Madonna over the last month or so. So we journey with the dark goddess into the depths of earth where her codes are held. These codes begin to be transmitted to you once you realize that your spiritual journey isn't all rainbows and unicorns, and you must be prepared to face and embrace the darkness so you can be more grounded in your light. Here, the third petal of the Mary codes is activated. Some choose to avoid this petal on their consciousness journey, denying themselves the fourth and fifth petal. We must journey with the Black Madonna, with the Kali, with the Hecate, with the Lilith. We must journey with them. It's important because this is where we get to see all of ourselves. And it's only through seeing all of ourselves that we can go back into that light in a really powerful way. So that's initiation 3. The fourth initiation, which will be around the time of the second eclipse and the equinox. This is the one with Mary Magdalene, and I've called this Mary of the Magda-Line. Magda, you may know, is the Hebrew word for tower. This is the lineage of the tower priestesses, holding, really like think of Magdalene, and I explain a bit what this is. We journey with the rose goddess, which was so powerfully embodied in the Magdalene. These codes are activated when you have integrated the aspects of the white and dark goddess, enabling you to merge fully with your inner sacred masculine. So this is the sacred union that I was talking about with the rose line. And the only way we can move into that is if we have fully embraced the white goddess and the dark goddess within. That's embraced all of the feminine within us. And then we magnetize in that sacred masculine. And this is when we're in our power. This is when we become the tower. Rhyming. So here you expand into your full potential as a human, and the fourth petal of the Mary codes is activated. So that is a really big initiation, that one, especially being at the eclipse and the equinox. And also that is when the sun moves into Libra. So we move into the harmony. So, I didn't plan that at my conscious level. Okay, and then the fifth initiation, the final one, is Mary, Queen of Heaven. We journey beyond the Venusian frequency of the rose line and into the galactic realms to meet your star ancestors for the transmission of the Mary codes connected to the fifth petal. This completes your remembering of the codes of the Mary, activating them fully, bringing you into complete alignment with the earthly rose line you came here to walk. So these are the initiations of the Mary. It's a very simplified form because I'm sure that you have walked the path of the Mary. And as you know, this particular path of the priestess was very evident in the stories of Jesus' life because he's surrounded by Marys. That lineage was strong, that priestess path was strong because they were holding the frequency so that the Christ could birth. And this is why people are being drawn back to the rose line and back to the Mary, because we are remembering this path of the priestess, of being a Mary, so that the Christ can again be born, but this time in all of us. This is what New Earth is. And this is why this path is important. And this is why we are remembering the path of the Mary, or the 5 initiations of the Mary. I'm just aware of Mary Magdalene there. As I was saying that, she's like, that's what I was going to say. I've stolen her thunder. Okay. So let me just Is there anything else I want to talk about? I just wrote a few things. I think I've got it all. But if you click on the link below, you can go to my invitation page and you can read more about what this journey is. Or actually, I've probably shared more with you than is on that invitation page. This may not be right for you, and that's okay. Like I said at the beginning, it's not for everyone. But you know, when you hear me speak, you know if these codes are ready to be activated in you, and if this journey is the thing that will help activate them in you. Okay, so you know, your heart knows. It's just like, yes, yes. So have a look at the invitation page. If you've got any questions, pop them below in the comments. And also, depending on when you're listening to this, the price of this journey is 222 Australian dollars. Now, half of that in pounds, around 111, a little bit more in euros, a little bit more than 111, I mean, in euros, and then a little bit more than that in US dollars. But have a look on the invitation page, and I've done an approximate conversion for you to help you get your head around what the Australian dollar's worth. Not much. And yes, that's all. So the early bird is until tomorrow, Sunday, August 24th. So that gives you a discount on that $222. So depending on when you're listening to this, as to whether you manage that early bird or not. Okay, so yes, Mary Magdalene is wishing to do a channeling, so I will complete with that. Let me just check if there's anything else I wish to share. I would like to say I apologize if this is very echoey. It's quite a big space and it's a tiled floor. And I just realized that you might be getting quite a lot of echo with this, but hopefully the sound is good enough for you. Actually, just before I start, because I'm just looking at my candle. Let me show you my little candle. Okay, I bought this in Glastonbury at Wildwood, I think the shop is. Isn't she beautiful? I love it. So I can't leave it around with the kitten around, let me tell you. Okay, that's enough of that. So let's feel Mary Magdalene and hear what she has to say about the path of the Mary. My Rose family. Not everyone realizes that I walked the path of the Mary, as did the Mary who surrounded me. And yes, this path was to create a consciousness and hold a space for the Christ energy to birth, which at that time was only possible through select individuals because of the overall consciousness. However, 2,000 years later, you are in a different time. And there are many incarnate now who have walked the path of the Mary, whether that was alongside me and others, whether that was in the time of ancient Egypt. The Mary have always existed even in between these pivotal times. It is an ancient priestess lineage that goes back to the original waters of the Mother. There is a revival of the Mary, as it is safe now for you to remember. And even if you choose not to walk this particular path, this particular journey, for it is not for everyone, you can still invite the Mary into your life. Invite us into your dreams, your meditation. Ask to be shown how these initiations can be remembered by you. You each have your own path, your own memory, and your own way of remembering. But what is most important here is that you do remember. For here is where your power lies. When you claim your Mary lineage, as you have claimed your Rose lineage, then the power will merge within you. You will become the Mary of the Tower, the keeper of this frequency, holding, embodying this frequency for the consciousness of the planet to shift around you. It is all through the waters. And as your connection to your star family strengthens and is remembered, the coding within the waters will be activated so that the galactic origins become clearer, are remembered more profoundly, and flow back into the consciousness of humanity. From this, new earth exists. Hubrian diuren lequa, eran lectu nessa, harenote ainota, akuche, akia yanta, huedu, hueda, liohan noka. Rose blessings to you and blessings from the Mary. So much love.